The Stack. People, Business, Technology. With Dan Tomaszewski of Everything MSP.
Hello, everybody. Dan Tomaszewski here. Welcome to another episode of The Stack, where we focus on people, business, and technology. This week, we're going to dive into a challenge that many MSPs face, which is selling technical products without getting lost into tech itself. Our guest is here to help you shift your focus from what you're selling to why it matters to your prospects. Very key area here that we're going to cover. So we'll cover how to properly qualify or disqualify leads, the importance of solving a real business need rather than that pitching of software. We want to get into that business outcome, and why a solid sales process is just critical instead of flashy gimmicks. It's going to lead to better clients, stronger outcomes. Plus, we'll break down how to handle some objections like a pro. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring our guests here. We've got Alex Robinson with Comet Backup. How you doing, my friend?
Doing good. Thanks, Dan. It's good to be with you again today.
It's great to see you again. And we're on, different sides of the world. You're in New Zealand. I'm here in the States. And as we were getting started, we were talking about the differences in the seasons and the weather, and you're entering into winter, we're entering into spring, and just flip things right around, haven't we?
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's been all over the show here. We were 90 degrees a couple of days ago. This morning it was more like 50, so can go anywhere this time of year.
Exactly. Well, we're gonna jump into this important topic. We want to break things down to, what does it take to navigate sales conversations effectively, and how to turn interest into real opportunities. Now, with that being said, I think a lot of times, MSPs, look at themselves and wonder, do I have what it takes to sell? Am I a salesperson? And I think, we all are selling every single day. No matter what we do, we're trying to convince someone. It could be our children, it could be, anybody, we're trying to convince them. And I think we all have it inside of us, but we have to figure out, what works best and what's most effective. But, one of the questions I have for you is, do you have to have that certain type of personality or disposition to be successful at sales?
Yeah, that's one of those big kind of myths I think people have out there, that you have to be that incredibly extroverted, outgoing, people person, as everyone sort of says.
Yeah.
And my experience having done sales for 20 years essentially, is that your personality types absolutely no way dictates how good or bad you'll be at sales. I've met
Yeah.
really awesome extroverted salespeople and really awesome, pretty introverted salespeople. I'd consider myself generally on the pretty introverted side of things. But I don't think that really matters as much as some people think it does. So if you're, and I think a lot of people in tech, certainly introverted a little bit. I think it appeals to
Right.
us, but it doesn't stop you from being able to go out there and do the hard yards and make some sales. I think maybe the initial
Yeah.
approach to start talking to people might be the hard part, but once you get into that conversation, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I like to refer to myself as a introverted extrovert, and I kind of can fall into both categories there. But the thing is, when it comes down to selling, for me at least, when it's something that I'm passionate about, that extrovert side of me just comes right out, because,
Yeah.
we're talking about solutions, we're talking about some type of business outcome, with our clients and prospective clients. And when we do that, I think people can see that, and they can easily tell that we truly love what we do and we have that passion for what we do, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, another thing that I wanted to jump into is how to find out the real reason why a prospect is talking to us about our products. The first thing that they tell you probably isn't the real reason, though.
Exactly. Look, this is something I learned really on in sales actually. Someone will come in and they say, I want this, or they'll say something like, I want to save money, or whatever it is when they come in to talk to you. But I usually see that as if someone says something like, we'll take I want to save money, for instance, is a pretty common one. I'm sure most people hear that. Oh, my current company's
Yeah.
just put the prices up, or whatever it is. Usually, that's a symptom of, being sort of the final nail in the coffin of a situation. So, your job in those kinds of situations is cool. We should take that at face value information. It is important because it does have some bearing on the conversation, but we need to start digging a little bit deeper and understand, what's been going on beforehand. What's led to the point where a change in price has driven them to to want to move away from their existing provider, or what they're currently doing. So we want to get in and we want to ask them about what's your experience been like with the previous service provider, or whatever they've been using previously. Get in there and say, what areas would you like to see improvement in if you switch across to us?
Right.
Because it really isn't just a price equation. Like you know, someone's not going to switch to, say, a worse service to save money, generally speaking. But you want to know, hey, what's been going on beforehand? Try and get as complete a picture of that as possible. You can ask questions. Look, hell, you can even ask difficult questions of prospects. And that's a really
Right.
important one. I think a lot of people shy away from asking difficult questions. You can do that. Sometimes it helps, you can say to them, look, do you mind if I ask you a difficult question or an uncomfortable question? As a sort of,
Yep.
it's a way to get permission to then do that. And then they won't be upset if you do push a bit further on it, because you need to get to the bottom of things before you start building your way up from where you were.
Yeah, and I mean, that's truly the only way to really, identify what the root is. What's the catalyst for them having that conversation with you? I mean, I think sometimes, they may have an idea of what they feel the issue is or what the reason is, but as you start digging deeper, all of a sudden you've got a list of things that are all reasons why they should make the change. And it's a lot easier to go for the close then, if you have more of that ammunition and you can seek their permission to be able to say, let's move forward.
Exactly. And
So,
it really
yeah,
sort of clearly, yeah, fits into the qualifying or disqualifying part of the puzzle as well. You're trying to qualify them based on those points of saying, like, maybe they had certain issues or certain expectations weren't met, and you can then go through and you know whether or not you can meet those expectations.
right.
Right at the start of the conversation, do we offer those services? Do we offer the support that they're looking for? Whatever it is that they might need, and you can actually run through that list and start building out a complete picture of how you
Yeah.
might or might not be able to solve this customer's problem.
Yep, absolutely. And in what your client is looking for isn't necessarily the same thing that you're looking for, and it needs to, be a win-win. And so, can you just elaborate on some of your thoughts in that area?
Yeah, I think this is one where, as technical people, we can get really hung up on. Like, we're really into the products we sell, generally speaking.
Right.
So, like my background before I worked in software sales, I used to manage a camera store. So, like, I'd be the guy, I could walk in and I could tell you every technical spec of 100 cameras and lenses on the shelf, and I know it all off by heart. But that's irrelevant to my customers, or at least most of my customers, I should say, as they walk in the door.
Yeah.
They want to know, how is this product going to solve the problem that I have? And can you solve the problem? So once again, that translates over to, service provider. I can come in, I could talk all day long about, the technicalities of Comet backup, for instance. but that doesn't actually answer the
Right.
question of, what problem is this actually solving for the customer, for the end user, and even, for you as a service provider. The software you buy from your vendors, the problem it's solving for you is actually a different problem to what it's solving for your customer as well. So it's really understanding
Yeah.
that process, and understanding, look, backups are, for instance, right? I'm going to pick on that one because I know it the best. But
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
what it's solving for your customer is the reassurance to know that whatever happens, there's going to be someone there that they can pick up the phone and call, and who can push the button and get their files back, get their computer up and running, restore their systems, get their databases working again. That's what you're selling to the end user. You're not selling a suite of acronyms and in technical
Right.
terms. Basically, you're selling the reassurance at the end of the day that you've got the ability to push that button
Yep.
and make things right again.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a big difference if you're just saying, we can provide automated backups, we can, push those backups off site, those type of technical details is going to probably bore the decision maker. Whereas, when you're flipping it around and you're focused on, business continuity, ensuring that, your operations can continue in the event of a disaster, making sure that from a compliance perspective that as you are maybe having an audit done, that you've got all your i's dotted and your t's crossed. That's going to connect with those business owners and business leaders, and definitely will make a big difference. Now, I want to talk a little about sales meetings. You know, when you're going into a sales meeting with some predefined objectives, you want to have that list of critical qualifying questions. But what is the outcome that you'd like to achieve from that meeting? I guess is a critical thing that you want to establish, right?
Yeah, so when we're talking about an initial sales meeting, with a prospect, you're trying to outline outline essentially the situation. You're trying to build a potential action plan or not. So what you're trying to gain first and foremost is a complete picture of where they're currently at. That's really important, I think, is to know where they're currently at. Are there some shortcomings in their current process that say you think you could advise them on how to improve? What what solutions do you have that solve their problems? Understanding if you're going to solve their problems, are you going to be solving it in a slightly different way to what their existing service has been doing?
Right.
Or conversely, say if they don't have an existing service managing that, you're going to have to do a lot more in terms of explaining to them what a service provider actually does in this situation. What's part of that, what's included, getting to understand all those things as well, and seeing your essentially your job there is to convey not just the value of a suite of software or products that you're selling or reselling to them, but what your actual role in the process is. So whether it's a new person coming in, I've never used a service provider before, understanding that, whether it's someone coming from another service provider, to understand, hey, how is my service going to be different? How is my service, better than what they're currently getting? What am I going to improve on for you? So that's where asking those probing questions to get a complete picture is really, really
Yeah.
critical. It's not just jumping in and straight away something, it's important to get information, how many seats do they have? How many, what machines, those kinds of technical questions,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But you can't just go from, a list of numbers to a quote without really understanding a client's situation. That always leads to things that get missed, things that aren't scoped correctly,
Right.
misunderstandings. It's really important to get not just the list of what you need to cover, but the real understanding of their situation first. And I also think that's there's a thing in sales. Everyone in sales, they like to talk about closing sales, right? Making sales, winning sales. It's also really important to be able to clearly disqualify someone early on in the process if your service is not actually going to be suitable for them. I know it's always sucks, you think, oh, I'm losing a sale, but a qualified no is still a good result because you've reached no
Right.
for the right reasons as opposed to,
Yep.
the sale just falling through. So a qualified no saves your time, it saves the prospect's time, and you might even still be able to help them out in some other ways either in the future. It might be within the scope of what you can offer in the future. You may be able to refer them to someone else that you network with or could recommend them to. So there's still a lot of
Yep.
positive outcomes that can come out of that. So qualified no's, it's not a yes. We all like yeses, but it's still
Right.
a valid result from a sales call. An unqualified no, where someone just ghosts you after a sales meeting and you don't know the reason. That's the worst outcome basically when you can't put your finger on why something doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I think, we all, because we want the sale, we all, are like, ooh, somebody wants to spend some money, but they're a not good fit for us. So, you know, but I hate to walk away from the opportunity, but they're not a good fit for us. And we got to listen to that little voice in our head that's saying they're not a good fit for us. And we need to know when it's the best time to walk away, when it's not going to be that win win. It's okay to walk away from an opportunity because you want it to be a success for them and for us. And so it's critical where we draw the line and say, we are here to serve. We want to make sure that we can meet and exceed your expectations. And Mrs. Customer, unfortunately, in this case, I don't think it's going to be the right fit, but I want to recommend, a colleague of mine that might be a better fit for you, yada, yada, yada. So it's okay. Yeah, definitely okay. And I think the critical thing is, and this kind of a segue into my next question for you is, just spending more time asking questions than answering them. And I think this is such a difficult thing because, especially for us in that technical role, when we talk about, our dispositions and our traits, our characteristics, um, a lot of times we want to fill in the gap and talk, 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 but we got to flip that around. We got to look at that 80-20 rule. So when we take a look at that and we're talking through, how do we best handle prospects' questions?
Yeah, I think with prospects questions, and that's a really good one because it's much easier, I think, to talk yourself out of a sale by answering questions and talk yourself into one by answering questions quite often. And that's not to
Yeah.
say that I'm not advising people don't be evasive with people, don't avoid their questions. But if someone asks a question, probe a little bit deeper into that question. Now, the classics that you always want to dig more into is especially any questions that are like a yes no answer. Those are always the most sort of ones you want to dig into. So maybe a good example of that would be something like someone asks you, do you offer around the clock, phone support, for instance? And now, from your point of view, that's a simple yes no answer, right? You either do or you don't do it.
Yeah.
But what if you don't know what their desired outcome there is? It might actually be that they do want round the clock phone support, or it might be that they feel like I don't want to pay extra to a vendor that offers that service. You don't know what they actually want when they ask that question, even if it sounds like the obvious answer that they would want to hear is yes. So you can approach that and say, well, what kind of support have you needed in the past, and do you have, what are your concerns around support? You can ask them even, if I told you I didn't, would that be a deal breaker? Really simple and to the point on that, because you need to know that one way or the other, and then keep that conversation going,
Right.
because they're likely to talk. If they're asking about support, they're probably talking about the fact that they've maybe had a bad experience in the past with support with a provider, or something where they haven't, they've been left waiting on hook days for an answer for something. And it may not necessarily be that they want to call you at 2 in the morning to fix something. It might just be that they want
Yeah.
some reassurance that you actually have a reasonable time frame for responding to support requests. So just dig
Yeah.
deeper and keep digging until you get to the real answer. Don't just take the bait on yes no questions and give a yes no answer without knowing exactly what they mean by that question.
Right. Absolutely. Now, as we start wrapping up here, I know you guys just had your first quarter release. Want to learn a little bit more about, that release from Comet Backup that you guys had.
Yeah, so we've had a pretty big release recently. So there's a couple of really cool changes that we've made. Firstly, we've made a lot of UI improvements in our management console and in our storage systems. So it's a lot clearer, a lot simpler to follow through, and really easy to set up. Especially if you do want to set up your own on-prem storage with Comet. So I think that's a really cool little extra. But probably the big one is we now support direct VM restores. So doesn't matter whether
Mm,
you've got a disk image backup of a Windows or Linux machine, whether you've got a Hyper-V or VMware VM backed up, you can just directly through Comet restore back to a hypervisor and a hypervisor of your choice as well. So you can restore from Hyper-V to VMware. You can restore a disk image into Hyper-V or VMware into Hyper-V, regardless of which way you want to go with it, all directly through Comet. So it makes the recovery process in that situation really, really, really quick and easy.
very cool. Now, for any of our audience members that want to give Comet a try, you guys have a special offer for our Everything MSP listeners, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, if you go onto cometbackup.com and click on the start a trial button up the top and get started with us, you can use the promo code everything MSP. That's all one word. Doesn't matter if you do it in capitals, lowercase. You get $100 bonus on sign up that's valid for the first 90 days. So that'll go a long way to covering some of your costs as you come on board with us as well. So we do offer a full feature trial. You can try everything in the system, test it out, and set it up how you'd like to do it, and get help from us during the process as well. You can even talk to me if you'd like. If you want to have a sales call with me, and
Nice.
I can use some of these sales techniques on you that we've gone through today,
Yeah,
by all means.
exactly. That's awesome. Well, we
So if you'd
appreciate
like to
that
reach me,
discount. Yeah.
not a problem. Happy to
So
oblige.
yeah, definitely. And of course, you can go to cometbackup.com. If you are on the everythinmsp.com website, you can also search for Comet, and we have a lot of information. You can reach them directly from there as well. But Alex, it was great talking with you. Sales is definitely a critical area that we as MSPs must embrace. And the more we sharpen our skill set on that side of the business, we can drive more business and more recurring revenue. So that's perfect. And so Alex, again, thank you for your time. Everybody listening, thank you as well. Until next time, we will talk to you soon. Take care, everybody. Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you for listening to The Stack.